My husband Daniel was the kind of man you'd see in a movie. A successful architect, charming, handsome, and utterly devoted to me, Sloane. Or so I thought. Our life was perfect. A beautifully designed house, weekends spent hiking, evenings curled up by the fire. We were that couple, the one everyone envied. We'd been together for 10 years, married for 7, and I trusted him with every fiber of my being. He was my rock, my best friend, my entire world. That trust was the foundation of our life, and I never once had a reason to doubt it, until the day the first crack appeared. It was a Tuesday. I remember the air was crisp, the kind of autumn day that makes you feel alive. I was at our local coffee shop, waiting for a friend, when I overheard a conversation behind me. 2 women were talking about a man named Danny. My Daniel hated being called Danny. They laughed about his terrible jokes and his obsession with a specific brand of rare, expensive coffee, the same brand Daniel had recently started buying. I told myself it was a coincidence, a stupid silly coincidence. But a tiny seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, I casually asked Daniel about his day. He kissed my forehead and gave me the usual rundown: a stressful meeting, a demanding client, lunch at his desk. I watched his eyes, searching for something, anything. But there was nothing. He was the same loving husband he always was. Later that night, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed. It was on the nightstand. I never looked at his phone before. I respected his privacy as he did mine. But the name on the screen wasn't a client. It was a woman's name, Jessica, with a heart emoji next to it. The message read, "Can't stop thinking about our weekend. Same time next Friday." My heart stopped. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I quickly put the phone down, my hands shaking. A weekend? What weekend? He told me he was going on a solo camping trip to distress. I'd even packed his bag for him. The man I trusted with my life, the man I shared a bed with, was living a lie. The coffee, the nickname, Danny, the secret camping trip, it all started to click into place, forming a sickening picture I didn't want to see. My perfect life was a facade, and I was the star of a show I didn't even know I was in. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. I needed more than just a text message. I needed proof. I needed to understand the scope of his betrayal. The next few days were torture. I played the part of the loving wife, smiling and laughing while my insides were churning with anxiety and grief. Every "I love you," he said, felt like a stab in the heart. I started paying closer attention. I noticed small things I'd previously dismissed. Late nights at the office, hushed phone calls he'd take in the other room, a sudden new interest in his appearance. The following Friday arrived. As he packed his bag for another camping trip, he told me how much he'd miss me. I hugged him, fighting back tears, and whispered, "Be safe." The hypocrisy was suffocating. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I put my own plan into motion. I had hired a private investigator. It felt dramatic, like something out of a bad TV show, but I had to know the truth. I couldn't live in this limbo of suspicion and fear. The investigator was a no-nonsense woman named Maria. She was efficient and empathetic. She followed Daniel. The report came back on Monday morning. The photos were delivered in a plain manila envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. There was Daniel, my Daniel, not on a hiking trail, but walking hand in hand with a woman I didn't recognize. They were laughing, entering a charming little bed and breakfast 2 towns over. There were photos of them having a candlelit dinner, kissing, looking at each other with an intimacy that was reserved for me. The woman was Jessica. The investigator's report detailed that they had been seeing each other for over a year, a whole year. He wasn't just having an affair. He was living a double life. He had a whole other world, a whole other relationship, that I knew nothing about. He had a different nickname, different routines, a different personality. This Danny was a stranger to me. The betrayal was so much deeper than I could have ever imagined. He hadn't just cheated. He had built an entire alternate reality. I sat on the floor of our living room, surrounded by the evidence of my shattered life, and I cried. I cried for the woman I was, the naive, trusting wife. I cried for the 10 years I had dedicated to a man who was a complete stranger. And I cried for the future I had so carefully planned, a future that was now just a pile of ashes. The pain was immense, a physical weight on my chest that made it hard to breathe. But through the tears, something else began to surface, anger. A cold, hard anger that gave me a strange sense of clarity. When Daniel came home that evening, whistling a happy tune, I was waiting for him. I had arranged the photos on the coffee table, like a macabre art exhibit. He walked in, saw my face, then saw the photos. The color drained from his. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. For the first time since I'd known him, Daniel, the smooth talker, was speechless. "Who is Danny?" I asked, my voice calm and steady, devoid of the emotion that was raging inside me. He tried to explain, to apologize. The excuses were pathetic. He was stressed, he felt trapped. It just happened. He claimed he loved me, that I was his real life and she was just an escape. An escape? For over a year? His words were meaningless, hollow echoes in the tomb of our marriage. I didn't scream, I didn't throw things. I just listened, and with every word he spoke, I felt myself detaching. The man I loved was gone, replaced by this weak, deceitful stranger. I told him to leave, that night. He begged, he cried, he promised it would never happen again. But trust, once shattered so completely, can't be glued back together. It would always be fragmented, a constant reminder of the betrayal. I knew I deserved more. I deserved honesty, respect, and a love that wasn't a lie. It was the hardest decision I ever had to make, but it was also the most empowering. I was choosing myself. The weeks that followed were a blur of lawyers, packing boxes, and difficult conversations. Dismantling a life you built with someone is a painful, meticulous process, but with each step, I felt a little lighter. I found strength in my friends, my family, and most surprisingly in myself. I started rediscovering Sloane, the woman who existed before she was Daniel's wife. I started painting again, something I'd given up years ago. I reconnected with old friends. I found joy in simple things, in my own company. It hasn't been easy. There are days when the grief hits me like a wave, but I'm healing. I learned that my worth isn't defined by a man's loyalty or lack thereof. I learned that I am resilient, capable, and whole on my own. My story isn't about a cheating husband. It's about a woman who found her strength in the rubble of a broken heart. I trusted him with my life, and when he broke that trust, I learned to trust myself. And that's a foundation that no one can ever take away from me. Thank you for listening to my story. If you're going through something similar, know that you are not alone, and you are stronger than you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.